Hello student, welcome to my class. Today I am going to take class 9 geography. It is chapter 3 and the name of the chapter is drainage. So let's proceed. So before starting this chapter, it is quite important to know some of the important concept used in this chapter, because if you will understand this concept, then it will become easy for you all to understand this chapter. So first let us learn the important concept used in this chapter. And the first concept used frequently in this chapter is drainage. So what is drainage? Drainage is any channel through which the water is passing. It can be for example, it can be a pipe also through which the water is passing. Any channel through which the water is passing is called drainage. What is drainage system? So whenever the river flows, it has so many tributaries and distributaries along with her. Tributaries are those small rivers which join the main rivers. So some small river when join the main river, it is called its tributary, and distributary are the main river when it get bifurcated or divided into two parts or more than two parts, then it becomes the distributary of main river, because some part of the river get divided and flow in another direction. This division can be because any physical feature came in between the river or some other reasons. Okay, so the river flowing with its tributary and distributaries. Okay, so when the river flow with its tributary and distributary, so river together with its tributary and distributary is called drainage system. What is drainage basin? So when the river is flowing with its tributary and its distributaries, it covers some area. So the total area covered by the river along with her tributaries and distributary is called its drainage basin. So what is water divide? Water divide is actually any physical feature which is uplifted feature actually, and this physical feature act like a barrier between the two streams or two water bodies, and this barrier don't allow that two water bodies to meet each other. So when a barrier stop two water body to meet each other, it's called its water divide between those two water bodies, like two rivers. There are two rivers flowing and there is a barrier of physical feature in between them, then that physical feature is actually called the water divide, because it divided the water of the two streams of water. So this can be clear with the diagram. So I told you about the drainage. So drainage is any channel through which the water is flowing. So you can see that any channel through which the water is flowing is called a drainage. So what is drainage system? Drainage system is the river along with its tributary and distributaries. And I told you what is drainage basin. It is the total area covered by the river along with its tributary and distributary. So you can see in the figure, river flowing with its tributary and distributary, and the total area covered by it is called the drainage basin of that river. And I told you water divide, this figure is given in your book also. Water divide is actually two rivers are flowing and there is a physical feature in between those two rivers, and if this physical feature were not there, then maybe this two river would have united together and formed a single river. But because of this physical feature, these two rivers are not able to unite together and form a single river. So whenever a physical feature between the two rivers and stop those two rivers from meeting each other, then that physical feature is called water divide. And it can be understand, there is an example given in your book also. Himalaya is also like a water divide between two rivers, Indus and Satluj. And Ambala is a water divide between two rivers, Indus and Ganga river. There is an Ambala uplifted land in between the Indus and Ganga river, and because of that the Indus river and Ganga river are not able to meet each other. And even the Satluj river and Indus river, Satluj at the end meet Indus in the afterwards in the Pakistan, but in India it not able to meet Indus river. It flow parallel to the Indus river up to 400 kilometer, but couldn't meet Indus river because there is a Himalaya in between the Indus and Satluj river. Both Indus and Satluj river are starting from the same Mansarovar lake of Tibet, but still they are not able to meet each other because the Himalaya is acting like a barrier between them. So water divide can be any physical feature which is acting a barrier between the two rivers, like Ambala is acting like a barrier between Indus and Ganga river. Some other concepts are gorge. Gorge are like a valleys. They are valleys with the steep sides. So if the valley have the steep side, then it is called gorge. Catchment area is actually the source of rivers. So when the river is flowing, it must be catching its water from some places. It must be taking its water from some places and draining it all through the area. So from where this river is catching its water, what is the source of that river from where it getting its water, that source area is called its catchment area. Then what is river basin? River basin is also a catchment area because it is a catchment area of a big river. When the catchment area is of a big river, then it is called as river basin. And it is actually act like a big tank in which all the water is being collected, and through that tank the water is taken by the river, and then with that water river move forward. This you can understand with a figure. So you can see the catchment area in this figure. The round one is the catchment area, that is the source of the river from where the river is taking its water and flowing forward. Alright, so let's move forward. Alright, now we will study, after the concept we will see the pattern in which the river is flowing. So the river actually flow in different patterns. So when the river enter the plain, it does not flow in the same pattern. All the river does not flow in the same pattern. Some river flow in different pattern and some river flow in some other pattern. So what are the different patterns river follow while flowing? There are many patterns. 5 are discussed in your book, and one is dendritic pattern. Dendritic pattern is actually the pattern of a river which look like a root of a plant or a branches of the tree. So when the pattern followed by a river which look like a branch of the tree or the roots of the plants, then it called a dendritic patterns of river. And radial pattern is what? Radial is, you can remember it with radius. In the center you see the radius is going in all the direction. Same way, when from a center point river is flowing in all the direction like a radius, then that pattern is called as radial pattern. I will explain all this with the figure also. Trellis are actually the river. When the river flows, it have so many tributaries joining it, and the tributaries which are joining the main river, that tributary can also have some tributary for them. Alright, so the tributary of the main river is called primary tributary, and the tributary of the tributary of main river is called its secondary tributary. So river have the primary tributary and secondary tributary. Secondary tributary is the tributary of the tributaries. Alright, so when the river is having two tributaries, primary tributaries and the secondary tributaries, and the primary tributaries are making parallel distance between each other, they are parallel to each other. When the primary tributaries are parallel to each other and the secondary tributaries are making like a right angle to the primary tributary. So primary tributaries parallel to each other and secondary tributary is making a right angle on the primary tributary, then that pattern is called trellis pattern. What is centripetal pattern? Centripetal pattern is a pattern in which all the different rivers are flowing and coming from different direction to a same single center point. So many rivers when reaches the same single center point, then it is called the centripetal pattern. And the fifth one is rectangular pattern. What is rectangular pattern? It is the pattern of the river. It exists on the land where the hard rock and soft rock both are existing on the land in a parallel way. When both hard rock and soft rock, there are some rock which are very hard in nature and there are some rock which are soft in nature. So when the hard rock and soft rock are present on a land in a parallel pattern, so what the pattern followed by the river look like a rectangular shape, and then it is called a rectangular pattern. Here what happened, the river cannot penetrate from the hard rock. What it do, it penetrate from the soft rock in between the hard rock. So when it penetrate into the soft rock in between the hard rock, then they make a rectangular pattern. So I will explain you all this with the figure. You can see I told you first the dendritic pattern, which look like a root or a branches of the tree. So you can see this pattern of the river, when the river flowing in all direction like a root of the plant or the branches of the tree. It's called dendritic pattern, dendritic drainage pattern. And it is called radial drainage pattern. What is radial drainage pattern? From the river, its all branches are growing in all the direction, like a radius of the circle. The branches of the river is going in all the directions. So it is called radial drainage pattern. And here you can see it is called trellis drainage pattern. Trellis drainage pattern, you can see the primary tributary of the main river. They are parallel to each other, right? All the primary tributaries are parallel to each other. And the secondary tributary, which is the tributary of the tributaries, are making almost like a right angle. It's not exactly right angle, but it is almost like a right angle. So when in this pattern the rivers are flowing, it is called trellis drainage pattern. And you can see the centripetal pattern. Here what is happening? The river from all direction are coming to the center point. And this pattern is called centripetal pattern. And then I told you about the rectangular pattern. Here the hard rock and soft rocks are there on the land in a parallel way. And the river is flowing through the soft rock because it cannot penetrate from the hard rock. And when the river penetrates from the soft rock, they make a rectangular pattern. And this is the rectangular pattern of drainage. So after the patterns of the drainage system, we can understand what are the classification of Indian drainage system. So Indian drainage system actually can be classified in a many way, but the most important common classification of drainage system of India is the classification of river on the basis of its place of origin, where this river has been originated, from where it has been started. So on the basis of its place of origin or the mode of origin, whether it started from the Himalayan or from the peninsular India. So on the basis of the place of origin, the river system can be divided into two parts, that is Himalayan drainage system and peninsular drainage system. So we will read both the Himalayan drainage system and peninsular drainage system one by one. So before studying the Himalayan drainage system and peninsular drainage system separately, let's understand what is Himalayan drainage system and what is peninsular drainage system in a comparison form. So you can see in the Himalayan drainage system, it includes the river which originate in Himalayan region, and peninsular river system is the river which originate in peninsular place, peninsular India of the country. And the Himalayan drainage systems are perennial rivers. Perennial rivers are those rivers which have water throughout the year. They have the water throughout the year because they are not only dependent on the rainfall for its water. They are getting its water from the glacier also, because most of the river originating from the Himalaya are starting from some or the other glacier. So when they start from the glacier, so glacier supply them water in all the season. So they don't have to depend only on the rain. They can get water from the glacier also. That's why they are perennial river which have water throughout the year. And the peninsular rivers are actually seasonal rivers. Not all the peninsular rivers are seasonal, but most of the rivers of peninsular are seasonal in nature. Seasonal means they rise up in the summer season. They don't contain water, or they contain very less water in the summer season, because they are only dependent on rainfall for their water source. They cannot get water from the glacier and they are only dependent on the rainfall. So actually they dries up in the summer season. And the another difference between the Himalayan and peninsular river, it is that the Himalayan river have a long course and large basin. Long course and large basin, whereas the peninsular river have short course and short basin. This difference you can understand by seeing the map of India. You can see how the rivers of the Himalayans are drawn and how the rivers of the peninsular are drawn. By seeing their drawing also, you can make out that they have the long course. They're going and covering the long distance, all right, and covering the large river basin. But in the peninsular side, you can see the rivers are drawn for a short distance only. So they have the short course and a smaller basin. Alright, the example of Himalayan river are Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra, and in example of peninsular river are Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari, Mahanadi and many others. The age of Himalayan rivers are young and the age of peninsular river are old. As you know that the peninsular are the oldest landform of India, and so do the rivers of the peninsular are also old. And as the Himalayas are young fold mountains, so the rivers present in the Himalayan region are also young rivers. Alright, so now we will start with Himalayan river and later on we will complete the peninsular river. So Himalayan drainage or Himalayan rivers are the main river present in this Himalayan region are Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. These three are the main river of Himalaya, and they do lot of erosional activity. Erosional activity I explained you in the last chapter. Erosional activity is eroding the place, like taking the small pieces from that places out, because the river flowing in a very fast way, so it cut the physical features and carry the clays and boulders and rocks along with it. So the river is eroding a lot when they are Indus river, Ganga river, Brahmaputra river with a high speed flowing from the mountains. They erode the mountains a lot, and when they erode the mountain, they leads to the formation of so many physical features, like they make V-shaped valley, they make gorges, they make rapids. Rapids are actually the river flowing in a very fast way over the rock. Alright, and they make waterfalls. So in this erosional activity, they make many physical features. And when they come down on the plain, these rivers, after crossing the mountains, they come down on the plain. When they come down on the plain, they make many depositional landform also, because they are bringing so many erosional material along with it, and then they will deposit those erosional material, and while depositing those erosional material, they make many landform, like they make flat valleys, they make oxbow lake, and they make flood plains. Flood plains are the plains which are made by the material brought by the floods. And braided channel. Braided channels are braided is the hairstyle of the girls. So they make the channels, their channel, the way they are flowing is like a braided hairstyle. And they make deltas. Deltas are the triangular landform made by the depositional material of the rivers. And oxbow lake is the lake in the shape of the bow of an ox. Alright, so they make so many physical features while depositing those erosional material also. So when the river actually enter the plain area, they flow in a meandering way. Meandering is, the river always meander. Meander is flowing in a zigzag way. Alright, and especially the river Kosi is famous for its meandering, because it's while doing meandering, sometimes it changes its course also, its direction also. And this river Kosi is also called as sorrow of Bihar, because it brings lot of floods in the Bihar area, and because of its changing course. So when the river actually enter downwards, it start meandering, that is flowing in a zigzag way. So you can see the figure in this, everything is shown. The meandering is also shown in the middle course of the river, where it is meandering, flowing in a zigzag way. So you can see here that there are three phases of the river: upper course, middle course and the lower course. Upper course is when the river is falling from the mountain. Middle course is when the river is flowing on the land, and the lower course is when the river is going to meet the sea, because ultimately every river go and meet the sea. Alright, so you can see in this river some of the physical features which are formed by the river. You can see the oxbow lake. You can see the shape of that oxbow lake. It is in the shape of a bow of a ox. That's why it is called oxbow lake. Alright, and you can see the deltas formed in the lower part of the river. Deltas is generally formed when the river is about to meet the sea, and when it is about to meet the sea, it opens its mouth and deposit all its erosional material in a triangular shape, and this triangular shape landform of the depositional material of the river is called delta. So these are some of the some of the landforms shown to you which river make. This figure is given in your book also. And you can see that Himalaya river which I was talking about, Indus river, Ganga river and Brahmaputra river, it's shown in this map. The first one is Indus river, which is flowing in the western side of India, and it flows in India and then it goes to Pakistan side. And actually it starts from Tibet and then it come to India and then it goes to Pakistan. And in the second one is the river Ganga. It's flow in many, it's the largest river of India because it's flowing in many states of India and then it entered the Bangladesh. And third one is the Brahmaputra river, which starts from Tibet and then it's enter the India from Arunachal Pradesh and then it goes to Bangladesh. So these three rivers of Himalayan shown to you. You can learn this map because this map activity is very important from the third chapter. Alright, so these three main river we will study one by one. All the three Himalayan river we will study one by one. First is Indus river system. Okay, so Indus river system is actually one of the largest river system of the world, and it actually originate from a glacier called Bokarachu glacier, and this glacier is in the Kailash ranges of the Himalayan mountain near the Tibet. And in the Tibet it has a name called Tsangpo. Not Tsangpo. In the Tibet it has a name called Singhi Khamban. Singhi Khamban is a lion's mouth. Means it is the mouth of a lion. Singhi Khamban. It is called in Tibet. And then in the westernmost side of our India, that is near the Pakistan side, it is called Sindhu river. And in India it is called Indus river. So it is known by various names. And you can, as it start from Tibet, then it enter the India. If it enter the India from the side of Ladakh, and then from Ladakh it goes to Baltistan and Gilgit of Jammu and Kashmir, and from Jammu and Kashmir it enter to the Pakistan side, and finally it discharges its water in the Arabian Sea. So it has many tributaries. There are many tributaries of Indus like Jaskar, Gilgit, Drans, and many others, and it also receives its water from the 5 main tributaries of India which flows in Punjab, that is called Panjanath river. Panjanath means 5 rivers. It comes from Punjab. Punjab is called Punjab because it is a state of 5 rivers. Punjab. Panj means 5. Ab means water bodies. So it is the place of 5 rivers. The 5 rivers flowing in Punjab is actually forming the tributaries of Indus river. Those 5 main rivers of Punjab which become the tributaries of Indus and join Indus in the Pakistan side near Mithankot are those 5 main rivers of Punjab are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. So all these 5 rivers of Punjab goes and join the Indus river in Mithankot of Pakistan, and then they finally falls in Arabian Sea because ultimately every river falls in the sea. Alright, then there is a topic in your book that is Indus Water Treaty. So you can see the Indus is coming from Tibet, then it's coming to India and then it's going to Pakistan. So there is a treaty signed between India and Pakistan about how to use the Indus river water. And according to that treaty, only 20% of the Indus river water India can use, and rest water is allowed to flow to the Pakistan area. And the water which we get from Indus river is actually used for the irrigation activity of Punjab, Haryana and southern and western part of Rajasthan. So this treaty was signed actually in 1960 between India and Pakistan, and with this treaty we have distributed the water of Indus. Now we will study the second river system of Himalaya, that is the Ganga river system. It is also one of the very important river system, not only because it is a very large basin and covering lot of the Indian state, but also it is important culturally and religiously. It has lot of sentimental and cultural importance in India. And it's actually start from the Gangotri glacier in the Himalaya, which is this Gangotri glacier is near Gurumukh in Uttarakhasi district of Uttarakhand, and the place from where the Ganga is starting, it is Gangotri glacier, but there it is not called Ganga. When the Ganga start from the Gangotri glacier, it is actually called Bhagirathi, and then this Bhagirathi meet Alaknanda, the another tributary of Ganga. So Bhagirathi and Alaknanda, 2 different rivers meet each other at Devaprayag, and in Devaprayag when Bhagirathi meet Alaknanda, then the name Ganga is given to that river. So Ganga is actually given to the river when Bhagirathi and Alaknanda meet each other at Devaprayag. and after crossing the Himalayan, it entered the plain area of India, and it entered the plain of India at Haridwar. And first, after entering the Haridwar plain, it first take the south turn. It flowed downside, and then it turned to the southeast side, and then it goes to the eastern side of India. And finally, when it reaches Bengal in the Farakka district, it get bifurcated, divided into two parts. One is Bhagirathi Hooghly, and another is its main stream which goes to Bangladesh. So in the West Bengal, it get divided. It divided into two parts. So when the river get bifurcated or divided, it's become the distributaries. So the river of Ganga distributary is Hooghly and Bhagirathi, and then another one is main river of Ganga, which goes to the Bangladesh, and when it goes to the Bangladesh, it take the name of Padma. So when the main river of Ganga enter the Bangladesh, it take the name Padma, because in Bangladesh the river Ganga is called as Padma. Then this river is the largest river system of India, and it cover lot of state, and its basin means the area covered by this river is extended to the many states of India. It covered 5 states of India, that is Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal. There are many tributaries of river Ganga. Some tributaries are called its left bank tributaries, some tributaries are called its right bank tributaries. The tributaries which are joining the river Ganga from the left hand side are called left bank tributaries, and the tributary which are joining river Ganga from the right hand side are called right hand tributaries. So left bank tributaries of river Ganga is Ghagra, Gomti, Ramganga and Kosi, and right bank tributaries of river Ganga are Chambal, Sindh, Betwa, Ken and others. And this right bank tributaries are actually the rivers which are originating from the peninsular India, and they are coming from the peninsula, from the south side, and joining the river Ganga. And one of the largest tributary of river Ganga is Yamuna river, which join the river Ganga from the westernmost side of it, and it meet the Ganga at the Prayag region of Allahabad. Allahabad, Prayag is famous for the meeting of Ganga, Jamuna and Saraswati. And this Yamuna river is actually starting from the Himalayan region only, and it's starting actually from the Yamunotri glacier. Ganga is starting from Gangotri glacier, and Yamuna is starting from Yamunotri glacier. Alright. Now the Bangladesh, when it entered, Ganga, when it entered the Bangladesh, it is known as Padma. And when this Ganga entered Bangladesh, from the another side, the Brahmaputra is also entering the Bangladesh, and this Ganga and Brahmaputra unite. The Brahmaputra is, when Brahmaputra enter the Bangladesh, it is called Jamuna. The name is changed from Brahmaputra to Jamuna. And this Jamuna and Padma is Ganga river, which is the river Ganga is called Padma in Bangladesh. So this Padma and Jamuna which is actually the Brahmaputra of India, this Padma and Jamuna joined each other, and they make another river called Meghna. And this Meghna river is actually famous for making the Sundarban Delta, which is the largest and fastest growing delta of the world. And this delta region is also famous for Sundri tree and also for the Royal Bengal tigers. So the delta I explained you earlier. Delta is a triangular shape of a river. When it is about to meet the sea, it opens its mouth and deposit all the deposit brought by it in that place in a triangular shape, and then the deltas are formed. So the delta formed by the Meghna river, which cover the some part of India and some part of Bangladesh, is the largest and fastest growing delta of world, and this is called Sundarban Delta. And then the third river of our Himalayan rivers drainage systems are Brahmaputra river. This is one of the largest river of the world, and it starts from Chemayung Dung glacier of Kailash range near the Mansarovar lake. Alright, so it is also actually starting from Tibet only. The Brahmaputra river is also starting from the Tibet. But from where it is starting, it's not entering India in the same place. It's running parallel to the India to very long extent, and then enter the India from Arunachal Pradesh. The place it enter from Arunachal Pradesh is Namcha Barwa. From the Namcha Barwa it enter the Arunachal Pradesh. And in Tibet the name given to Brahmaputra river is Sangpu. And then when it comes to India, in Arunachal Pradesh, it's not called Brahmaputra as soon as it enter the Arunachal Pradesh. It is called Dhiang or Siang. Alright, it is called Dhiang. And there in the Tibet it is called Sangpu. Sangpu means the purifier. Alright, so this river is called Sangpu in Tibet, and when it enter the Arunachal Pradesh it is called Dhiang. And then many tributaries of Brahmaputra like Dibang and Lohit join the Brahmaputra river, and when they join the Brahmaputra river, the river take the name of the Dihang and the Lohit. When join the Dihang river, Dibang and Lohit join the Dihang river, because Brahmaputra at that place, Arunachal Pradesh, it is called Dihang, not Brahmaputra. And when the Dibang and Lohit river join the Dihang river, it take the name of Brahmaputra and reaches Assam. So when it comes to Assam, its name changes to Brahmaputra. And then it enters the Bangladesh. Again its name changes to Jamuna. So the Sangpu river, the Dihang river, Brahmaputra river and the Jamuna river is ultimately the same river. Alright, with different name in different region. And when it enters the Bangladesh, it enter and join the Ganga river. Ganga river is in Bangladesh, it is called Padma river. And when this Jamuna and Padma river join, and they together make a single river called Meghna river. And this Meghna river actually help in the formation of Sundarban Delta. So this Brahmaputra river is also famous for its flood, for its shifting the channel, for its erosional activity. It has lot of erosional activity. It does not have lot of erosional material when it start, because it start in the cold region, in the Tibet. Does not have much erosional material at that place. But while coming from different places, it gathers so much of erosional material, because the tributaries which are joining the Brahmaputra are very large tributaries and they carry lot of erosional material. And also there is a lot of rainfall in the catchment area of the Brahmaputra river, and so it causes flood and it do lots of erosional activity. This river Brahmaputra is actually also famous for making riverine island. What is riverine island? Like you have the island in the ocean. Same way you have some island in the river also. So when the islands are there in the river, it is called riverine island. And Majoli island, which is made by the Brahmaputra river in Assam, is the world largest island in the river. So it is the largest riverine island of the world, which is made by Brahmaputra river in Assam. Now we will read, after Himalayan river, we are going to see the peninsular river. So peninsular area, India have the Western Ghat, as you have seen the Western Ghat in the peninsular India in the last chapter. This Western Ghat is actually acting like a water divide in the peninsular part of India. In the peninsular India, you can see the most of the rivers are falling in the Bay of Bengal and very less rivers are falling in the Arabian Sea. It is because the Western Ghat is stopping them from going to the western side, and that's why the most of the rivers are falling in the eastern side of India, that is in the Bay of Bengal. So there are many rivers which are flowing on the western side of peninsular river, and there are some rivers which are flowing in the eastern side of the peninsula. So on the basis of the river flowing on the western side and falling in the Arabian Sea, and on the basis of the river flowing on the eastern side falling in the Bay of Bengal, this rivers of peninsula can be grouped into two parts. In the western rivers, the rivers which is falling in the western side of the peninsular India, it's come Narmada and Tapis are the two important river of that area. And the river flowing on the eastern side of peninsula have some river like Krishna, Kaveri, Godavari and Mahanadi. So these are some of the rivers which is falling on the eastern side of our peninsula in the Bay of Bengal. So let's see all this river one by one. First we will complete the eastern side river, and then we will go to the western side river. So first is Mahanadi. It actually starts from the Raipur district of Chhattisgarh, and then it goes to the Odisha and finally fall in Bay of Bengal. And the drainage basin, which is the area which is covered by its tributary and distributary, is MP, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. Then you have Godavari river. It is largest peninsular river and it is also called Dakshin Ganga because it is the largest river of peninsula and very important river of peninsula. So it is called Dakshin Ganga, Ganga of South. Dakshin means south. So it is actually called the Ganga of South India. And it rises in the Nasik district of Maharashtra and it discharges its water into the Bay of Bengal. And it runs through many states of India like our Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. And it has many tributaries. You can by heart some of its tributaries like Penganga, Indravati, Manjira, etc. And then you have the Krishna river. It is the second largest river of peninsular India. It rises near Mahabaleshwar in Sayadri and it's cover the area of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It also have many tributaries and some of the important tributaries of Krishna river is Koyna, Tungabhadra and Bhima. Then you have the Kaveri river. It is actually starting from the Brahmagiri hills in Karnataka and it flows through Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu and it has many tributaries like Kambini, Bhavani and Amravati. Then you have the Narmada river. From Narmada river, the river flowing on the western side of India is we are starting. Okay, the Narmada river is the river which arises from the Amarkantak plateau and then it flow in the Rift Valley. It is flowing. It is caught between the two. It's flowing between the two hills. It's flowing between the Satpura hills on one side and Vindhyas hills on the another side. So it is flowing in the Rift Valley and it finally falls in the Arabian Sea. The famous Sardar Sarovar Dam is also built on the Narmada river and Namami Narmade is one of the projects which is started for the cleaning of Narmada river. Then you have the Tapi river and this Tapi river actually starts from, it is also the river of the western side of peninsula. This Tapi river is actually starting from the Betul district of Madhya Pradesh and its flow through MP, Maharashtra and Gujarat. It also flow in Rift Valley like your Narmada river and it also falls in Arabian Sea only. Then you also have Luni river which is one of the important river of India because it is the only largest river in Rajasthan and it is formed by two rivers. When the two rivers join each other, they take the name of Luni. Sabarmati and Saraswati. When they combine together, these two rivers combine together at Pushkar and they take the name of take the name of Luni river and this two river actually meet at Govindgarh of Rajasthan and then they flows near the Aravalli hills and then this Luni river, actually this Luni river is also called mysterious river because this is the river which does not fall in any sea. It get vanished in the sands of the Rajasthan. So it actually dries up before reaching the sea area and it lost in the sands of the Rajasthan. So you can see those important rivers of South India in this figure. You can see that on the western side you have the Narmada and Tapi and in the eastern side you have Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. So there are some waterfalls which are talked about in this chapter about which is actually falling in the peninsular side of India, and the Narmada river is also famous for its picturesque marble rock and also the which is in the Jabalpur. The marble rock is in Jabalpur and it is also famous for Dhuadhar Falls. Alright, and Jog Fall is also biggest waterfall of India. It is in Karnataka. And the Kaveri river is also having the second biggest waterfall of India and that is called Shiv Samudra. Why waterfalls are important? Because on the waterfalls you can make the hydroelectricity plants, right? Hydroelectricity plants are the plants which generate electricity with the help of water. So you can have the hydroelectricity plants in these waterfalls, and this hydroelectricity plant of this falls of Shiv Samudra in the Kaveri river, it supplied the electricity to Mysore, Bangalore and the Kolar field of that nearby regions of the Kaveri river. There are some other small rivers also flowing in peninsular side which some small river flowing in the western side of peninsula, and some small rivers are flowing in the eastern side of peninsula. Some small river which are flowing on the western side of peninsula are Sabarmati, which is in Rajasthan, Mahi in Madhya Pradesh, Bharatpuja and Periyar are in Kerala. These are some of the small river flowing on the western side of peninsula. And there are some small river flowing on the eastern side of peninsula also, that those are Tamodar, Brahmani, Baitarni and Subarnrekha. Then we will, after covering the river, we are going to talk about the lakes, because India has so many beautiful lakes also. There are many places in India which is famous for its lake. Like Kashmir is famous for Dal Lake, right? And Nainital, Srinagar and many other places in India are famous for the lake, and the lake attract lot of tourists. Alright. So what is lake? Lake is actually a large body of water surrounded by the land. And when sometimes this lake extend to a large area and it cover a large area, and when this lake cover a large area, sometimes it is also called sea, like your Caspian Sea, Dead Sea and Aral Sea are also a form of lake only. So you have the different types of lake in India. There are some permanent lake and there are some seasonal lake. Permanent lakes are those lakes which have water throughout the year, and seasonal lakes are those lakes which dries in the summer season. They don't get water in the summer season and it dries up. So another types of classification of lake can be man-made lake and natural lake. Man-made lakes are the lake which are formed because of the human action. Natural lakes are the lake which are formed because of the nature's action. The example of man-made lakes are Guru Gobind Sagar, which is formed because of the dam construction, Bhakra Nangal dam construction. It is formed because of the dam construction. So because of dam construction also some lakes are formed. And the examples of natural lakes are Chilka Lake, Pulikat Lake and many others. So I told you that man-made lakes are formed by human action and natural lakes are formed by the nature's action. So how nature leads to the formation of lake? It can lead to the formation of lake because of the erosional activity of glacier and ice, or also because of the action of wind and river, and also because of the tectonic activity which is the activity going inside our earth's surface. So all this activity of nature leads to the formation of lake. For example, you saw that meandering of the river, and during the meandering of the river some area is cut off like a lake in a oxbow shape, and that is called oxbow lake. And in the sea, in the oceans also the lagoons are formed, because the ocean also do the erosional activity and it brings the erosional material and deposit on the sides of the ocean, and while depositing those erosional material on the side of the ocean, they leads to the formation of lake. And the lake of the lake which is present near the ocean body is called lagoons. So I can show you with the figure. You have seen this figure. The river is meandering in the middle course, and while meandering it is leading to the formation of, actually in the lower course it leading to the formation of oxbow, because a small area in a bow shape of a ox is cut up from the meandering area and it's becoming like a oxbow lake. And here you can see the lagoon formation. Lagoon is the lake near the sea area, and it is because the ocean is also bringing some erosional material and depositing on the sides of the ocean and leading to the formation of a small lake near the ocean body. And when the lake is formed near the ocean body, it is called lagoon. Its water is mostly salty. And the other types of classification of lake is salt lake and freshwater lake. Salt lakes are those lakes which water has salt content. Its water tastes very salty, like Sambar Lake of Rajasthan. And sometimes these lakes are also used for the formation of salt also. And freshwater lakes are those lakes which are having which have a fresh water and it does not contain salt. Actually, little amount of salt is present in all the types of water, but it's not that much. It's water tastes fresh and pure, and it does not taste salty. And the example of freshwater lakes can be your Nainital, Bhimtal and many others, and most of these freshwater lakes are present near the Himalayan region. So there are many advantages of the lake. Lake is also having lot of economical advantage because it's on the lake you can construct the dam and have the hydroelectricity, and the lake also help to control the river because because the river, river is famous for causing the floods and causing the drought. So the lake, how it control the flood and drought, because it contains some of the waters. It keeps some of the waters of the river in its portion, and when it keeps some of the water in the portion, the river does not have much water, so the amount of flood activity it can do decreases to some extent, of course, because some of its water is discharged to the lake area, and so there is some less chances of causing flood. And how it controls drought, because if the water in the river is less, you can use the water from the lake, so it can also help to control the drought problem of our country. So help to control the flood and drought problem of our country. And lake also gives a pleasant atmosphere, pleasant weather condition, because the water has the moderating effect. It does not it does not make that weather too hot or too cold, because there is a continuous transfer of breezes from the land to the sea and land to the water and water to the land. And because of the lake surround, if the lake is there besides your area, then you will have the moderating climate, neither too hot and not too cold. So it will give you quite pleasant kind of weather to the nearby region. And lake also attract many tourists, because lakes are the attractive places for the tourists and many others visitors. And it also maintains some aquatic life, so it is also important to maintain the aquatic life in that region. And there are some advantages of the river also, because river also attract tourists, because the river waters can be used for playing the water sports like river rafting and other sports. And river also have some religious important, right? In Allahabad, Haridwar, Banaras, all these regions are famous for the river, because that river there has some religious importance. So the river also attract many tourists. Of course, river help in agriculture also, because it supply water for the irrigation. It in the river also you can construct the dam. You can construct the dam, and you can have the hydroelectricity power plant, and you can generate the electricity. And it also, of course, river supply the drinking water for everyone. And it is also, its water is used for multi-purpose project. It's used for bathing, cleaning, and washing the clothes, and many other purpose the river waters are being used. So there is some problems of water pollution or river pollution in our country, which has increases a lot in this time. And this is mostly happening because there is a large demand coming from the population. When the population increase, demand increase, and the pollution increase in the river. Because you are using more and more river water, you are discharging more waste in the river water. So actually the increasing demand of population is leading to the pollution of river. Industrial effluent also harm the water bodies, because the chemical waters which are being discharged from the industries are sometimes not treated well and discharged in the river and polluting the water bodies. Untreated sewage discharge also make the water dirty, because this sewage are what? There is a sewage discharge from every domestic places, like the waters coming from your washroom and latrines are discharged into the river without any treatment. So if this sewage are discharged in the water bodies without any treatment, it of course pollute the water bodies. And the increasing urban area, the cities and towns, has also leads to the more pollution and more pollution of water bodies. And also, the river also have the capacity to clean itself. Okay, but it does not get any times to clean itself, because river have the capacity to naturally clean itself, but it needs some time to clean itself. So this time is not given to the river, and there is no time for self cleaning capacity of the river, and that's why the river is becoming polluted day by day. So what can be solution for such pollution of river? There are many plans which has been started by the government, like National River Conservation Plan, which is also called NRCP, and Ganga Action Plan, which is called GAP. The Ganga Action Plan was started in the first phase. It was started between 1985 to 2000, and its aim was to clean the Ganga river and free it from the pollution. And later on, the second phase of Ganga Action Plan was started, and at that time the GAP merged with NRCP. Ganga Action Plan merged with National River Conservation Plan, and it worked in 152 towns of 16 states, and it took the charge of cleaning 27 rivers in our countries. And it actually sanctioned 215 schemes to be implemented and clean the rivers, but till now only 69 schemes are being completed, and rest are still to be complete in future. And these are working in various area, like treating the sewage before discharging it in the river, or making the law for the discharging of chemical water from the industries should be treated first, and then it should be discharged in the river, and so many other laws it's making, and so many actions it's taking to clean the water from the river and make it free from the pollution. Because as you know, the river is very important source of any country, which is an important resource of any country, and it's very much needed, not only for the success of the country, for the development of the country, but also for our healthy life. So that's all for the today's chapter, and I hope you understand. If you want note, you can write down by from this video, or you can take the screenshot and take the printout also. I hope this will help you. Thanks for watching and happy learning. If you like my channel, do subscribe it. Thank you and